my video. I'm gonna try to get straight to it. I know why you clicked the video because of the title, and I'm gonna try not to pish posh around. First and foremost, please excuse my appearance. I really put in minimal effort, but I didn't want to look like a wildebeest coming online. But besides that, excuse me. Can you see? Also, I already heard Little Bean's heartbeat and everything. Come here. What are you doing? So, I have gotten pregnant twice since being told that I would not be able to get pregnant on my own at all. I was told by a fertility specialist that I would need assistance to get pregnant. But I got pregnant with this one and the one that's currently in my stomach after I was told by several fertility specialists that I would not be able to get pregnant on my own. So if you watched my previous video, when I said I got pregnant after Depo, this is the baby. This is him. He is here. He's here. Say I'm here. Okay, you can go. So just to give you a little backstory, a few years ago, me and my husband were like, okay, we want to have a baby. So of course, like any other couple, we were trying for quite a while and nothing happened. So I was like, okay, let me really try, like ovulation kits, taking a prenatal vitamin, downloading the cycle trackers or whatever. So I did that. I did, got all that stuff together, and still months went by and I still wasn't pregnant. So at this point, we've probably been trying for close to 2 years. So we decided to go, both of us get checked out to make sure like there was nothing wrong on his end and to see what was going on my end. My husband and I, it got to the point where it'd been about 2 years and still wasn't pregnant, so we decided to go get checked out. My husband got the full male rundown for fertility and everything, and he came back fine. Everything was fine on his end. So I, of course, went to first I went to my OB, and she ran, I think, all the tests that they kind of run when you say you're trying to get pregnant, and they discovered that my follicle stimulating hormone was off. They said it was overcompensating, like it was a lot higher than it was supposed to be, meaning that my body was working a lot harder to try to produce eggs. And I really thought a lot of that was because I was on Depo-Provera previously. And I don't know if it is or was not, but I asked my OB, I remember asking her when I was put on, and I was on Depo for a little bit, but I asked her, I was like, is the Depo the reason why I'm having issues? And she told me no, which I don't believe, but she said that wasn't it. So after she ran her test and, told me that there was not really anything that she could do for me, from that point, she sent me to a fertility specialist. So I had similar tests, the same kind of labs done at the fertility specialist as I did at my OB. So along with my follicle stimulating hormone, my FSH being out of whack, they also told me that my AMH level was all effed up. And they were saying that the AMH gives you kind of an idea about your eggs. And they said that I had the AMH level of somebody who was like late 40s. My ovarian reserve, that it was almost non-existent. That kind of meant that the quality and quantity of my eggs was struggling, basically. So basically they told me if I wanted to get pregnant, the only way I was going to get pregnant was to try, fertility assistance. Children. So like I was saying, my AMH, they were like, that's off. So along with a whole bunch of other things, that it was just kind of daunting to me. Like I said, this is my third pregnancy. I have a 10-year-old, and of course I have the little one I just showed you, and I'm pregnant. Now my 10-year-old I got pregnant when I was 19? Yeah, something like that. So it was young, I was young, and it was unplanned, it just happened, so that's that. So my next child, I didn't even try again until 10 years later, so a lot, can change or happens between now and then. So let's go back to my fertility specialist. She was saying, the only way is for IVF or IUI or all this other kind of stuff. And I'm like, girl, can't nobody afford to be paying no $25,000 to maybe try and get pregnant, and that's not even a guarantee. And then I don't like needles like that to be sticking myself in the stomach or wherever else. It was just like, man, I'm not gonna have a child with my husband. So I went to another fertility specialist, ran the same test, told me the same thing, and she also recommended that I go get can't think of the medical term, but when they stick a tube, they go inside of you, what is it called? Hold on, let me go ask Google real quick, and I'm gonna be right back so I can give you out the exact name. Okay, I asked Google, it's the hysteroscopy, whatever. It's when they go up you with some tubes, they shoot dye into your fallopian tubes, and if the dye, they can see the dye being released through the fallopian tubes, that means your fallopian tubes are working. So I had this procedure done, which is not pleasant. And this was like the worst time in my life for a second. I remember vividly sitting on the table right after the woman shot the dye through, and she says, you can't get pregnant. And I went to curse her out, but I was so sad because she had no empathy, and she told me that both of my tubes were closed because no dye came out. No dye was released at all. Not a trickle, not a stream, not on left or right. Neither fallopian tube released the dye. I just sat there like crying. My mom took me to the appointment because I didn't want to go by myself. My husband was at work. And I was falling out, bawling, crying. I was like, we're not going to have a baby. I was just like messed up for a while. So I was like, I gotta Google. I gotta figure out why. Because like I said, I have this 10-year-old. So obviously I can get pregnant. I got pregnant before. So what happened? I didn't have, the only surgery I had was a C-section. I was like, can that cause it? Like, cause they say if you have scarring or if you've had, all my words are leaving me right now. But if you've had something traumatic happen in that area, then that can perhaps. And I would say, I would even be like, okay, well maybe one, if that was from a C-section, which it wasn't likely from what, I gathered. The C-section wasn't likely to cause that. So I was just like, how? So I went back to my fertility specialist, she got the results and everything. And I was dumbfounded. I was like, I don't understand, like, how is this happening? What happened? And she said a whole bunch of different things could have maybe caused this, but those things were very unlikely. She also said that they could be clogged. Clogged from what? From how? And she said, or they could have spasmed my fallopian tubes when it was time for the procedure, which she's like, would most likely still at least release a trickle of some of the dye. But like I told you, the lady said she saw nothing. No dye was released from my fallopian tubes. And I was like, man, let me hold on to the fact that maybe they were spasming. So I just, at that point, I kind of left the fertility specialist alone because I feel like it was just kind of like messing me up mentally and just messing me up. So the first thing I really focused on was trying to open my fallopian tubes, which to this day I don't know what was up with them. But I Googled a lot of things that could possibly help, like kind of like homeopathic things that could help with your fallopian tubes. And let me tell you, just from this one standpoint, and I'll get on to some other things. But serapeptase was something that's supposed to break up scar tissue in your body in general. So I know, like I said, I had a C-section. I wasn't sure it was from that or why I may have scar tissue in my fallopian tubes. So that was one thing I did. I took serapeptase, serapeptase, whatever, serapeptase. And I think it's derived from a silkworm, but it's supposed to break down, you know, like scar tissue or clogs or what have you. So I took that. And the other thing that I read a lot about was castor oil packs, which is simply putting like a cloth, like a cheesecloth kind of thing. I just got something from Hobby Lobby, like some, I don't know, some weird cloth, I don't know. You don't have to overthink it. Just get a cloth and get some pure castor oil. You put it on, you put the castor oil on the cloth and you put it over your abdominal area. And you just put, and I got a heating pad, and you put that heating pad over it, like over where your fallopian tube area would be, and you just kind of sit with it heated for 15 to 30 minutes. And I would do that probably once. It was supposed to be twice a day, but I normally only did it once a day. But I was consistent with doing it at least once a day, probably for a few months. But my AMH levels, remember, she said that I basically had screwed up eggs or none at all. That I had no eggs, and the quality of my eggs probably weren't that great. So I then looked into how to improve the quality of my eggs, as well as, I mean, you can't increase the quantity per se, from what I've gathered, because you're supposedly at birth, you're giving all the eggs that you're ever going to have. But I did what I was going to do regardless. So I Googled everything about eggs, and Pregnitude and Pre-Mama, very good for that. There's these little powder packets, taste like nothing. Put it in your water. You take 2 packets a day, I believe. Read the box, I don't remember. And I did that consistently. Now, let me tell you, anything that you do, you need to do it for a minimum of 3 months. You can't do this, girl, for 4 weeks and be like, girl, I'm not pregnant yet. What's going on? You lied. Everybody different, so don't come for me. B, you have to be consistent, which was hard for me at the beginning. I'm not gonna lie, because between the vitamins and the oil packs and these little water packets and trying to eat kind of healthy and drink. I mean, I drink a lot of water anyway, so that wasn't anything. But I was trying to do all these things. Okay. Mind you, if your cycle is not regular, your ovulation won't be regular, so that'll be hard to track. Vitex. Vitex is good for everything reproductive, in my opinion. It was great. Vitex, and some more Vitex. So Chasteberry, Vitex, Chasteberry, same thing. So that's gonna be the first thing I would tell any person, whatever your issue is you're struggling with reproductive wise. I mean, other than that, I know it sounds like bullshit. I know it does, because I don't like to hear it, but think positive. I pray for all of you trying to get pregnant, and I hope that it happens for you. Thank you so much for watching my video. I know it's been a little ratchet, but thank you so much. If you can like it, please subscribe because I'm going to try to come out with more videos more consistently. So thank you.